do you guys think? We are starting the recording, just be conscious of that. This will be posted for people to see later on. So we are excited you guys could join us. We want you to know we're trying to model a lot of good things. So maybe in the chat, have you thought about starting off something like this with your students, just to help get a feel for where they are, what they're feeling? If so, and maybe you have a different idea of how you could use this, please put that in the chat and check it out. Yeah, Kendra, we think it's a great idea. It's a way to kind of get people started. So yeah, and you don't have to use George's here, even though it's in your presentation. You could actually create your own using some of the tools we're going to show you today, right, McKenna and Ramey?
Yeah, buddy.
So as we go through, we'll talk about some things. We're going to begin with social emotional learning, SEL for short. Based on the survey that most of you guys filled out, it did appear that most people had some knowledge. Ramey, can you tell us a little bit about what SEL is and what it does and how we work with it at China Grove Middle?
Well, I'm thinking that a lot of our participants today are already incorporating SEL and maybe don't even, and you're maybe not even aware of it. That was how it was introduced to me. I'm like, oh, that's some things that we do all the time. So thinking about the whole child and meeting that student's needs holistically, like managing emotions, being aware of your emotions, teaching them responsible decision making. One of the ways, setting goals. Allowing those kids opportunities to be aware of that. Social awareness, self-management, and my favorite, building relationships, because that's a huge thing, especially right now, is building that Zoom culture or whatever platform you're using. To build that culture is to build those relationships. And I'm excited about just immersing ourselves in SEL with digital storytelling, podcasting, and whatever the subject may be, because we're able to meet some kids' needs in a different way. And what I'm finding is kids are really opening up that didn't before. And just being aware that there are so many things that we can do, even now, even though it's tough. Some things that Miss Peyton and I have been doing are the read alouds, and whenever we open up our Zooms, we make sure to greet. One of the ways we just did is with the meme. We tried that this morning. They had a really good positive response to that. And we're trying to just branch out and think differently. So like creating, having those morning meetings or afternoon, depending on when your students wake up, using different concepts to teach a subject such as like journaling, scavenger hunts, vision boards, and then that social awareness, random acts of kindness, and then showing empathy. We know a lot of students right now are watching movies, so using movies to teach empathy. Something else that has, I guess, birthed itself through this is doing one-on-ones or small groups in the Zooms. And it's just given an opportunity to have those conversations with kids and asking them, hey, how are you? Is there anything that we can do for you? And engaging them, connecting with them by asking those questions. And another thing that China Grove has done to incorporate SEL is the Good Day China Grove Show, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. But just the two main things that stick out with me with SEL is just asking kids, how are you? And then connecting with them through different forms of ways of connecting through their passions.
And I want to guys tell you a little bit about McKenna. This is McKenna's first year of teaching, and she is totally rock star in it. McKenna,
Yes.
When I first walked into your room, and by the way, McKenna's lateral entry, but she's one of those awesome people I think that was destined to be a teacher. Just talk some about how you've built relationships since you had a non-traditional path from many of us in education.
Yeah, so the reason, I mean, obviously the reason that I started teaching was just because I wanted to spend time with kids. I don't really have the background for teaching. My plan was to take a totally different path, but I just love spending time with the kids. And TikTok has been a super fun way to connect with them. I love to dance with my kids and we sing. And so TikTok is perfect. It's a perfect way for us to connect, especially right now. I was TikToking before this all happened, so I'm not one of those TikTok bandwagoners. But um, just getting to know my kids and spending time with them. And one of the ways on Zoom that has been really cool is we talk about what we're doing aside from education and aside from our assignments. What kinds of things are you involved in? They've taught me things about painting, canvas painting. They've taught me things about recipes. One of them said, I found a new chili recipe. So we've talked about that. This morning they actually were teaching me how to do some new TikTok dances. So I was like, guys, I have a really, really important question for you. Can you please teach me how to do this? So this is so important to me. I'm really excited about the SELs and just building relationships and connecting with them.
And guys, I'll tell you, both McKenna and Angela, I call her Ramey, so I'll do that all the time. They teach from the heart, and I think that's super important. Earlier this week, Ramey was part of a seminar with Castle Learning, or with Castle, which is focused exclusively on SEL. And there's a note for this in the slideshow of how you can connect to them. But they've developed 5 core competencies for SEL, or social emotional learning: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And I think that is definitely what we want all our kids to do. I have an 8-year-old son who's here at home, and it's been interesting to see him go to remote learning. Initially, his mother, who's also on the call with us, and we were struggling getting him to do his work because he didn't have a lot of interest. But over time, through especially my wife helping him to develop some self-management behaviors, he's realized, hey, I can get my work done early and have Fridays off. And so last week, he didn't have to do work on Friday. And so a lot of these are things that we really want to give to our students. And a lot of the discipline issues we kind of are challenged with in school come from, a lot of the SEL somehow not being met for our students. And so check out Castle as you get a chance, some really just awesome resources. Ramey, can you talk some about that webinar experience?
Yeah, something that stood out to me was just in the time that we are, this emergency remote teaching. There's a lot of emotions going on with our kids, and some of them, they're more hidden, some of them are more vocal. And I think the way that we can be there for them to show that we care is first just show up and be vulnerable. Let them know, you know what, hey, I'm struggling too. I miss you. I love you. And being just that raw, genuine, authentic self that you are, because you miss your kids. And I think something that was a challenge for me was taking traditions that we were in the classrooms and bringing them into the Zoom. I guess it was a challenge because, like, how do you do this? What does it look like? One of the things we did in class was breath work, like meditation type thing, and just teaching them how to breathe and using their breath as a way to reduce anxiety. But taking that in Zoom, I mean, I was timid about even telling them about it first, but they really had a positive response to it. But guys, be yourselves, be authentic. Let them know some things that you're struggling with, but how you're managing it. Because I think that's a real huge thing with self-awareness and self-management. And then just something that I know Miss Pate taught me this actually is she shows her schedule. And so I've started doing that too, because I think that helps with the responsibility and having that routine, somewhat of a routine. Like, what are your goals today? And excuse me. And remember, you matter, and you matter more than you know. And your presence is so important. I saw someone in the chat just say like their kids right now are having social hour. Wow. I mean, there was one time I was doing a lesson on Zoom, and there was like that moment, you know, you feel it in the class where you kind of need a brain break. Those are needed in Zoom too. And the kid just starts doing tic-tac-toe with me. And so instead of being frustrated, I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's take a brain break. Let's play tic-tac-toe. That led to hangman. And I think it's important just to have that time with them, spend time with them, take some time on Zooms to do some games. And I think it's just being you, your presence, showing up, and then going back to asking. Just ask them, hey, how are you? Is there anything I can do?
And asking them what they want to do too.
Yes.
Ramey, I know Ramey does Fun Fridays in her class, and I kind of stole that idea from her. But we've been doing Fun Fridays on Zoom with our kids, and we play, what is that, an animal game?
Mystery
animal. And Ramey and I even did a morning workout Zoom with our kids. And I'm struggling. Yeah. I don't want to work out right now. So I was like, we're all struggling together.
Yeah.
We had a question in the chat that says, you know, what do you guys do to get your kids to show up in your Zoom or Google Meets? So you guys have pretty high attendance considering everything, I feel like, don't you?
I feel like we do, but there's still those that we even say together, hey, have you heard from so-and-so? And she's like, no. And we have built like this team camaraderie, not just us that you see, but we have like a Google sheet of every single kid's names. And we make sure to reach out to them. And definitely that's a lot of work. So it's not just us. And so we're communicating with each other. So I know one kid we didn't see for a while, and I literally just clicked on remind, hey, where are you? I'd love to see you, even if it's just to play a game with you, you know, or it's not easy though. We still struggle with it. I don't think we have like a perfect answer for that, but I would say don't give up. Keep trying to reach out, whatever platform you're using, make that phone call or just to say, hey, I miss you. You know?
I think part of it too is adding that fun aspect to your Zooms.
Yes.
They're not always for us to do a lesson and to have an assignment that we're doing together. A lot of times it is to show off your pets or to tell me about that video game that you've been playing all day long. So I think they look forward to just having that social time with their friends and with us.
And we're seeing a lot of people share some awesome ideas in the chat.
Barbara, I need to see this rap.
So just some awesome ideas. Yeah, that's Barbara Hoover, who's out of Kannapolis. So shout out to her friends in Kannapolis City. As we're also looking at this, you know, Brene Brown has this tremendous quote that I think is so important that we need to remember and let guide us. Connection is critical because we all have that basic need to feel accepted and believe we belong and valued for who we are. And if there's ever been a time when we need to make sure our students breathe, live, and feel that, this is that time. We need that more than ever. Okay. McKenna, can you talk some about the Good Day China Grove program that we're doing?
Yes, I love the Good Day China Grove. We have so many random things from staff and from students of things that we're doing, talking about our dogs, our pet donkeys, exercise, drawing, painting. We have students that submit videos that they've created showing off their talents. And so it's a great way for all of us to stay connected. We have birthdays on there so that the students who have birthdays for that day get a birthday shout out. We say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of every Good Day China Grove. So it gives a little bit of normalcy with that, which I think is really cool. Are you going to show us one of our episodes?
I am. We have a link in the slideshow, but we're going to show you just a more recent one. And we thought it was important to include the pledge and birthdays just because that's a regular routine thing. So we'll watch for a few minutes of this. These are 3 to 5 minutes typically, and we run them Monday through Friday. So let's go back and see if it'll play sometimes.
Yeah, we watch these together in our Zoom meetings, which is really fun.
I hope you guys can hear the sound okay.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy birthday to you, to you. Happy birthday, happiest birthday to you, to you. Happy birthday.
Hey everybody, it's Miss Aldridge. I just want to let you know that I miss you. I hope everybody's taking care of themselves and enjoying the weather outside. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do for you. Don't hesitate to reach out. We hope to see you soon.
We're going to skip up just a little bit.
We love you and can't wait to see you again. Bye.
Let's wash our hands.
Well, this is a great video right here because this is just a proud moment. One of our 7th graders made that. She created the anime and then put it all together and initiated telling Mr. Whitson she'd like to put it on the show.
Yeah, she's been great for reaching out to us. And so I'm in display mode because we had a request to make the chat, to make the display bigger. So I can't see what's going on in the chat. But one of the things we want to do is talk about some of the tools we used. And we are using elements of digital storytelling to do this. And I think one of the reasons we've gotten such a good response from many of our kids is they're eager and excited about the Good Day China Grove show. Wouldn't you guys say?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we, like you were saying, we kind of come up with different topics. Like we have dad jokes on certain days. We have throwback Thursdays. We have fun fact Fridays where you get to hear fun facts about your teacher. I get to put a lot of my TikToks in the videos. So I like that we have those different themes and they can kind of look forward to it.
And one of the things that we've done with our stories is just to incorporate effective storytelling. And so with digital storytelling, you may wonder how it differs from traditional storytelling. And a good story, if it's told correctly, or a good story being told, is effective no matter the medium. But for a lot of our students, if we wanted them to tell us stories verbally, they might struggle, but digitally they do well. The young lady who did the wash your hands commercial, she's real quiet at school and she just kind of blends in. She doesn't get in trouble, but she has really excelled. And so what she's learned to do is take her interest in using these digital tools to create what Daniel Meadows calls, and I love this, a short personal multimedia tale told from the heart. And so she did just a few days ago drawings of her secretaries and showed us the movie for seeing that. So it's pretty amazing to see how all that was done. And so as we go through, think about how we can incorporate these elements of digital storytelling into supporting our kids' social emotional development. The 7 elements of storytelling, this is non-digital, originally from the Center for Storytelling, all includes good things: point of views, a dramatic question, emotional content, the gift of your voice. Sometimes the way people tell stories, they have the right inflections where if someone else told it, it may not carry the same impact. If you have a soundtrack, the wash your hand, it was stuck in everyone's head after watching Good Day China Grove. The economy of the story, is the economy told, or the story told in a succinct way that's shorter and doesn't kind of drag on, is what we talk about for economy. And then the pacing. The University of Houston modified this to include more elements for digital storytelling, and I'll let you guys look at that. But to me, one of the most important things is number 8. Quality of the images, videos, and multimedia elements. And so that is beyond super important as we're doing this. We ask you guys to go ahead and create Adobe Spark accounts, and we're going to talk about why that is. But one of the things we want to stress for you, this is a great quote from the tech rabbi, Michael Cohen, is we have got to see these tools of technology to realize they're simply a catalyst for materializing our imagination, our creativity, rather than a method to digitize the status quo. So we're going to show you how we're using these tools to create something that totally impacts our students. McKenna did a project early in the year where her students incorporated design thinking with a novel. Can you tell us some about that, McKenna?
Yeah, so I actually started about a month into the school year because a teacher was retiring and I took her place. So I remember Whitson talking to us about design thinking, and I really didn't know what it was, but it sounded cool. And I knew the book that we were reading, so I thought, how cool would it be to apply the design thinking to the novel that we're reading in class? And so instead of doing design thinking and identifying a problem for ourselves, we thought about the character in our book and included the idea of empathy. And so we worked together to teach our students empathy, and they were able, after reading the book, they were able to choose a character, one of the main characters from the novel, identify a problem that the character was facing. So they had choice. We did not tell them the problem. They were able to choose whatever problem the character faced. Then they also had to find a solution for that problem. What is something the character could do to solve that problem? And then we took it a step further and allowed them to create a product that would help that character with the problem that they were facing. So they had choice in determining the problem, which I think was really cool because I think a lot of them identified with the character. And so that that allowed them to understand the problem better and then determine a solution, and then use our use lots of materials. We had blocks and all kinds of craft stuff. They were able to sew and use their creativity to create whatever kind of product they wanted that would help that character with the problem that they had identified.
One of the things we did was work on moving our students from being consumers, from just reading the book, to creating something with it. And in doing so, they identified their own problems, as McKenna said. And yesterday, George Kiros spoke with us in Rowan, Salisbury, about not just letting our kids be problem solvers, but problems finders. And when they become problem finders, they find problems that matter to them, that were authentic. And McKenna, I think we saw a lot of students who sometimes had motivational challenges really just blossom here.
Yes.
It was pretty amazing to see that. And so what we want to do is model that and help you guys learn to be creators as well. With creators, our students learn skills that they're going to need for a world that we don't even know what's going to be like when they grow up 20 years from now. One of the things that happens, and McKenna talked about this so beautifully, about giving students choice, but it also gives our students equitable access. We had a student who had just moved into our system from Greensboro, and he was just having a rough go of it, and he would not even talk to teachers. He wouldn't talk to students, you know, and we thought maybe he had some kind of label, but he didn't. He just didn't talk to people. And he was kind of a tough student to get to know. Wouldn't you all agree?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it was funny because he's in there with McKenna and me for 3 days. And by the end of the third day, he was talking to me, and I was just blown away. And, you know, his grandfather had said, because you were able to connect with him in a way that he didn't feel threatened, where other people had been working for weeks to try to get him to say hi to them. So it gave that young man some equitable access. And it gives all students equitable access for being creators, especially if they have some scaffolds in place. So let's look at this picture, and in the chat, I'm going to minimize the screen just for a second. Put in the chat what you see with this picture. Let me go back to it. With the picture on the right. So go ahead and put in there what you see. If you had to interpret that picture, what does it say to you? Location, yes. Travel. I see you. Going places. Collaboration. Okay. Awesome. Okay, now let me show you this picture. This is one that we use in our Good Day China Grove. What does this picture say to students? Go ahead and let us know in the chat. Okay, awesome. And so both these images, this is the image that's always at the end of our Good Day China Grove, because we want the message that you guys are conveying here to be one of the last things our kids see every day in the Good Day China Grove episodes we put. We do distribute those through YouTube, but they also go through Canvas. We have a student class where all our students are enrolled, so they can see it in either place. We do block YouTube within our district, but a lot of our students have devices at home that are not registered to our district. So we wanted that to be accessible. And so both those drawings they were done honestly in about 3 to 5 minutes. And so this is using a tool that we call Adobe Spark. And if you guys have a mobile device for Adobe Spark, I would recommend you go ahead and get it out and pull up Spark Post. And I'm going to show you how we can make a graphic in just a few seconds. Ramey, can you remind us on the iPad and phone about the different apps we need?
Hold on, you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, I'm muted.
There you go.
Oh, hey. Yeah, I'll also type it in. So there's Adobe Spark Post. And whenever you go to your App Store or Google Play, it's going to maybe be in parentheses in graphic or graphics. That's good. You want to get that one. Adobe Spark Post. If you're familiar with GarageBand, but that's not something that you have to download, but it would be something we're going to be talking about later. But yeah, Adobe Spark Post. It's a black and yellow symbol.
Okay, and so here, guys, I've already pulled it up. I'm on my iPad and I'm just screen projecting. So hopefully you're seeing that okay. And so I want to show you what I love about this is that this is free. It's a freemium where you can pay a little more for an upgrade, but there's really no need for you to pay for the upgrade on this because probably everything you need to go above and beyond is going to meet your needs.
Provide a test.
You may just have to find something that's a little different. So, but let's say I want to go ahead and make a sign. I'm going to begin down here at the middle with this big green plus, and I can choose if I want to do something on my own, or I can choose one of these templates. And I like to just take the templates and remix them. And I'm going to take this one that says just be kind, which that in itself is a pretty awesome thing to do, but I'm going to remix it. And in the chat, I would like for you guys to put in a message, and we'll make a graphic using one of the messages you put in. So go ahead and put in the chat what message you would like for us to use with our students.
You matter, Angie, I love it. That speaks to my heart. I think we're kindred spirits.
Okay, so
Just
Angie,
keep swimming. I love that.
we're going to go ahead and just go with you matter. So a lot of these are pre-done, which I love. We can remix, and by the end, you can make them look so different. So I just clicked on the words.
Yes, Paralee, I believe in you. Those are good words to tell our kids.
Taking risk with intention. I like that.
Okay, so let's go with one of the others. let's say I want to add some more text. So I always have to click done on the iPad to add another text. And I'm going to go with I believe in you. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. I could stop here and be done, but let me show you some other magic. Okay, so I'm gonna choose to change maybe some colors of this font. So I make whatever I want to edit active, and we have a tutorial and a cheat sheet we're gonna give to you to help you through this, and I have a screencast where I go through this a little slower. And so we can just choose whatever colors we want. And I just like to play around. I'm not necessarily a color person and know what goes with what, but I can play around. I can change its shape. So if I want to add some cool stuff to it, I can. I kind of like that design. You can change different effects. And all this is really by the click of a button, which I love. I can make it bigger or smaller depending on how I want to do it. You have order. Think of this as like when we used to make like these collages, whatever's on the bottom and we add new stuff to it goes on top. And so if we put something on the top that I want on the bottom, I could do that super easily just by shifting it here because this is on the top. It doesn't have any place to go but on the bottom. The thing I really love is style because maybe you're just not sure what to go with. And I click style, and through this really cool algorithm, it will just change things around until you get to where you want it. So if I like it, I can click done, and it's looking pretty nice already, right? Another thing I can do if I want to change layout, I could change the layout. I kind of like where this is going, so I'm just going to cancel that. Now, this is a huge thing. I'm going to click the background and change the picture. If you've ever had to help students find pictures, you know how this can be like crazy mad and tough, right? So we can change that. I can also replace the entire background. Let's say I want a picture of a beach. Then I can type this in here and it will pull those up. And so I could put that in my background. And so it's kind of looking cool. I can also find actual images and pictures. So if I go to add image and I choose photo library, this finds, oops, that's my camera. But if I go to, I have to find here, search for free photos. Maybe we could find a picture of this cute little cat. Or I could type in something else like the beach. And I'm going to bring in multiple pictures at once, and I'm going to add those two. And then I'm going to choose just to move freely. So I can put these images wherever I wanted. I can change their size. And so that's pretty cool. And so you can just play around with it. And one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is to work on follow up and create your own things. We had a participant from yesterday share some information with this about with her secretaries and administrative assistants. When you're done, you'll click done. And then up in the upper right corner, you'll see the share icon. And so I could easily share this. And what I love is on the iPad or phone, you can share it if you're logged into Facebook, Instagram directly, or I can save it to my photos. And so that's a little bit with Adobe Spark. And then it's there. Your students can create their own accounts. The only thing with it is if they're under 13, they will need to have a parent create their account or have a teacher managed account. That has to do with them just being underage. McKenna did a really cool thing with Adobe Spark, And so, McKenna, we're going to let you share your bingo card, and then we'll talk some about podcasting.
Awesome.
And it should be coming up.
Okay. So I call him Whitson. Whitson was actually teaching us about Adobe Spark recently. And so we were kind of playing around with it and experimenting with it. And I decided to try to create a bingo card that my students could use while they're social distancing. So I call it Social Distance Bingo. And it should be up soon. But I create the goal or the idea behind it was that I would create things that weren't just about school, that weren't just about assignments. There are things on there like I made my bed today, or I went for a walk. So I tried to do things that encourage them to spend time maybe with their family or reaching out to a friend, things that encourage them to exercise, to clean up around their house, just to encourage them to do some things, find a new hobby that are not just focused on school. There is one on here that's specific to our classroom because Ramey and I are doing a podcast, read aloud for our students, and then some of them are about education, like Zoomed with a teacher or completed assignments for the week. And so I sent this out to my kids, and I told them that the goal was to mark out every box on the card. And I told them to send me 4 pictures of things that they had done. So ideally, they mark out everything and do everything on the card. And I even offered to them, if there's one that you can't do, you can change it. You can find something else, because I know not everyone has access to everything. And so, maybe they can't cook a meal for their family, but they could replace it with something else that they're doing. And then I encouraged them to find 4 of the items on the card that they wanted to take a picture of and send to me as evidence. And if they filled out the entire card and sent me those 4 pictures, then I will mail them some type of reward. So I'll ask them their favorite kind of candy or their favorite snack. And so that also incorporates SELs. So they're getting personal mail from their teacher, and it gives them some motivation to actually do the card, because I haven't received any yet, but they tell me they're working on it. But the cool thing about the evidence part as well is that they absolutely hate finding textual evidence in class. And they're like, why do we have to do this? But this kind of takes evidence into a different realm, and they kind of see that in the real world we have to back up what we do and provide reasons for why we do things. So that also motivates them to actually do the things and not just put an X on all the boxes. So I'm excited. It gives us a chance to connect through mail. Everybody likes to get some kind of mail from someone that they care about. So I'm excited for them to complete the bingo card.
And we're excited too, so that's awesome. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go into another form of digital storytelling called the podcast, where it's completely audio. And Ramey and McKenna have been doing a lot of work with this recently, especially. So we are going to go ahead, and I will have this up and I'll drive this, and you guys take it away with podcasting.
Definitely.
Me as the queen of podcasting. So
don't let her lie. Listen, I'm going to be vulnerable with you, okay? So it was just an idea. I'm like, man, what a chance for kids to be able to share their voice, right? And to be able to have those conversations, those debates of things that they might not be able to in the class setting, but also have that space that is safe, that given that permission, okay, we can have this conversation that I'm really interested in, or this story that I've been really wanting to share. With podcasting, it can be a journey. And we've been talking about SEL, the social emotional learning aspect, crucial in this as well. And you can incorporate it into podcasting. Depending on your familiarity with it, I'm pretty sure we can all agree it's a journey. And the first part of that journey would be, what's your purpose? Are you sharing a story? Are you sharing information? What do you want to share with the world? And hopefully this will encourage kids to choose that one thing that they are so passionate about. And because they're passionate, they're going to want to do the research, because that's what's going to maintain or capture their audience. So I do want to say this. Whenever we were doing this podcast thing, well, we had the opportunity to do an elective course, so a specific time in the day students could just be part of an elective, and it was something of their choosing. So the kids who chose podcasting, I told them, hey guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done a podcast, but let's learn together. I mean, when we talk about diving in, I definitely dived in. And so I let the kids do the same thing. Go into the podcast room, start talking. And it was so cool what happened when they came back out of the room. They were like, Miss Ramey, we like stuttered a lot, or we like didn't know what to say. Some of them said, yeah, we just had like a lot of dead space, like dead air. We thought we knew what we wanted to talk about. And I said, perfect. I said, you just learned the importance of a script. Because and whenever we want to engage our audience, we want to know how do we transition to that next topic? What are our topics? And this got the kids writing or typing, whichever your platform is. And then they felt more confident going back into the recording. And we were blessed enough to write a grant and receive like a really nice podcast system. But don't let that intimidate you. Guys, you could start a podcast right now, even if you're interested. And that brings me to the next point. So you remember when I told you I came into the class and I said, hey guys, I know nothing about podcasting, so let's jump right in. I thought, well, I need to lead by example. And so created my own podcast. And I definitely hit some bumps in the road, technical difficulties. And it was so cool though, because it's like that failing forward. It's that let's just dive in and see where do we need to improve on. And thankfully, I had a wonderful teammate, Miss Pate, who jumped in right with me as well. We actually just launched our own personal podcast, and it went right to Spotify, which is awesome. And I'd like to do that as a transition as well. But before I do, Miss Pate, did you want to add anything before I talk about Anchor?
I just, it was scary. It was exciting. I've listened back to the podcast that we just created, and it kind of makes me cringe a little bit having to hear my voice and hearing the things that I'm like, oh, I should not have said that. I should have said this. But I agree with the importance of the script, and it is kind of empowering when you're given a chance to choose what you want to talk about, doing it with someone that you connect well with, and just having a conversation. It's just really cool to have a different avenue for expressing your personality.
Absolutely. So that brings me to the next point. If this is something you've been interested in, you want to do that leading by example, I would start with, let me talk about this first, and then we'll go to Anchor. Thank you, Mr. Whitson. It keeps me on track. So whenever you're working with your kids, you want to help them with some questions, and you might have them come up with their own questions whenever you're planning. But again, it goes back to what's your purpose. That needs to be the foundation. What are you trying to get across? Who is your audience? And and I would encourage them, because they're going to ask you, well, how long does it have to be? Well, really, be creative, like however you want. And Mr. Whitson, where did the presentation slide go off?
It did. I had to pull something, but it's coming right back.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, and then encourage them, what questions do you have? And allow that to be part of the journey as well, because asking them, they can plug away at some really good questions as well. And what do you learn from it? I know I've learned a lot about myself through this exploration of podcasting as well. And so if you're interested in podcasting and you just want to get started, it can actually be very simple. And yes, very vulnerable as well, because getting on a mic and even doing this presentation, it can be a little scary because you got like 100 and 200 whatever people listening in on you. So there's that risk of feeling exposed. But what's so cool about it is once you do it, it's almost like it feels a little bit better. And like as Pate said, you feel empowered. Here's an example of a teacher table talk. This is me feeling exposed and feeling vulnerable. It's just one episode, but that was when I said, you know what, I want to lead by example. I want these kids to know I'm going to do it. So I hosted a podcast. I asked a couple teachers to come on in, and we talked about small groups, and we talked about building relationships. These two teachers that were with me, rock star teachers, Ms. Kraft and Ms. Sneakwell, Ms. Hetrick from China Grove Elementary. So taking that perspective of elementary school teachers versus the middle school world, high school world of small group teaching and building relationships within those small groups. If you listen to it, that's fine. You're going to hear some audio, like tidbits that are not as great, but that's okay. I used that and told my kids, I said, listen, it is not going to be perfect. It will not. Something that hooks the students is you can earn money. Putting your podcast out there, and Anchor does this thing where you can create a commercial sponsorship for it. So yeah, if you want to check it out, this is just one of the examples of a podcast we started. And then there in the attachment, there's also a student podcast. If you hear this, even just in 5 minutes, just picking up the relationship between these kids, you can tell that they work very well together. They communicate well together. They're bouncing off ideas, having that conversation piece. And just coming from a teacher's perspective, when I'm listening to it, my mind thinks, and I'm sure yours would too, what's that next step? What feedback can we give? But even taking it a step further, having peer reviews, having your students review each other's podcast, because that's the game changer, that true authentic audience. And it almost empowers them to want to go back, make some edits, because just when they think they're done, they're not. So going back to their podcast and whatever their peers gave them as a review, to go back and change that. So where do you start? I would start recording. You can use GarageBand or Audacity, or as simple as getting a little mic and hooking it up to your phone and using voice memo. And then Anchor. So this is what Anchor looks like, but it's actually anchor.fm. And they're like a wonderful host to you. They will do pretty much everything else for you once you upload it. So once you have recorded your device or recorded your podcast, this is where you go. If you so choose, this is your platform. It's free. It distributes your podcast for you to Spotify. And it's all done like in that one place. So yeah, I think that's as far as the logistics go with the steps. And I know that next slide will go in a little bit more detail with Anchor.
All right. Yeah. Can you guys see that thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So here are some of the themes that Ramey uses. GarageBand, because we're an Apple district, it's on all our devices. Audacity is good for those who are not on Apple devices. Voice memos on your phone. You can start as simple as that. I've known people who've made podcasts after leaving maybe a speaker or some type of event. They'll put the voice note and they'll send it over to Anchor, and their podcast is up in a matter of minutes. So it's pretty awesome. Ramey, can you talk some about Anchor.fm and how that works?
Yeah, just that it's like your platform where you would upload your podcast. It's free. So they have creation tools. You can record, you can edit, you can add in transitions, jingles. I prefer GarageBand, but you can do it all actually in Anchor if you want. So you could skip GarageBand altogether if you don't want to. And then, so when Peyton and I just did our own personal podcast, I said, "Are you ready?" And I mean, it was just typing in the title, typing in the description, and clicking publish. And it's such a feeling. Like, I know I've said this word a lot, but it is empowering, because it's like, even for us, I mean, did you feel it? Like, I even told you, like, you click it.
You do it. You do it.
And it was so cool because it's out there. It's out there.
And Ramey, Angie's asked a really good question and a point. With Anchor, it sends your podcast to wherever it's going to be, kind of like a landing page. But
Yeah.
it actually comes from Anchor, and she works with students under 13. And so in that case, what I would recommend Angie does is she somehow collects them, and
Yeah.
then she would be the one who would begin to post those. I wouldn't necessarily have
Mm-hmm.
kids under 13 do them, because you do want to go through and, make sure that our kids are safe with those. But then you also have some control over them if you need to. Um, so you can actually even have a link to the podcast come out of your Google Drive, Angie. You could create a Google site where there is a link for that as well. We're going to go over a little bit on time, so I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a link to the survey and evaluation, but we're going to stay behind for just a little bit. So if you can stay with us, please do. If you need to go, we totally understand. And so I'm going to go ahead in our chat and post the link to the survey. We'll also be emailing out some follow-up resources. So, so if you could just talk a little more about that, Ramey and McKenna. And we appreciate you guys. If you're able to stay with us, we'll stay on for a few more minutes. If you have to go, there's the link, and we'll also send out the links through the email through NC Ties app as well. You'll get your certificates by April the 30th. Hopefully, if not, contact us and we'll help figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so there's just some links here with Castle that goes back to the SEL strategies with self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, responsibilities. And Castle is a great resource. If you want to dig deeper, and if that's something that was like a tidbit for you, go to the Castle website, castle.org. Also, yes, I would definitely love to connect with you, Amy, for sure. You can at Ramey AC. Also, there's a cheat sheet in here, and I know that with just an hour, there's probably so many more questions you'd like to go back and just look. So in that presentation, you can click that cheat sheet to just kind of look more into Adobe Spark posts, more into the digital storytelling aspect, and with podcasting. And then Peyton and I put in the Killer Instinct Google Drive. It's just as an added resource if you want to check it out. It's the second book to the Natural series. The kids love it. It's totally on their own, and it's not actually part of the assignments, and kids are loving it. They're asking for more of the chapters. We still have some of the chapters to read, but they wanted to read the next series to that book, so that's in there as well. And then there's a Wakelet. Wakelet's really fun if you just want to try something new as well, but it has all the resources from today's presentation in there.
And guys, I'm sorry about the screen share and the links. When we went to display so it could be larger for some of our participants, that kind of threw my windows off. Try the link now for this survey, and let me know if that's working. But yeah, definitely check out
Okay, good. That's good. They said there's several saying it worked.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, check out these resources. The cheat sheet has a screencast for how you do Adobe Spark in a little bit slower fashion. And then on this last slide, we have some people that we would recommend you follow if you do Twitter.
Thank you, Gary.
Have awesome shows. One thing, if you're into a lot of digital storytelling, Michael Hernandez does a lot. And so we're going to put our contact information here. If you need it, you definitely reach out to us. McKenna has offered, if you want the bingo card, just reach out to her and she will share it with you. And she may even personalize it for you if you ask nicely.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
So we appreciate you guys joining us. we're going to send out some follow-up information, and we had a request yesterday for people to do a follow-up session. So you'll have a link to a form if you want a follow-up session, and we'll look at the possibility of that in the future. So thank you guys so much. Let us know what you're doing. Create something, send it to us, email it to us, drop it down on social media, tag us. We want to see. We got a lot last night, and so we love you guys. I'll let McKenna and Ramey say their goodbyes, and then I'll stop our recording.
Yes, thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining us today. We really appreciate having y'all.
Yes, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Oh, just Miss Pate, they said they can tell we love our kids. That's good, because I do. I miss them.
Yes.
And we know you guys love and miss your kids too, and definitely just want to keep encouraging you to just take those times in Zoom just to get to know them more. I mean, I'm learning so much more even with Zoom.
Yes.
Like
learning so much from them.
Yes, hidden comedians and artists I didn't even know about.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to stop the